bottomless pants show. Just think about that.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Real Estate Uncensored. We are back with another fun episode. We've got a guest with us today. We're going to talk about how introverts can succeed in real estate and how introverts and extroverts can better work together. So if you're in like a team or a brokerage and you are on either side of the aisle, there's probably because you don't understand the difference between introverts and extroverts and how we come with different energy. And if you're an introvert like I am, you probably feel like there's a lot stacked against you in real estate. You're being told to do things that are insanely uncomfortable, but the extroverts are maybe brokers and managers and coaches and people like that are telling you all sorts of things that you should do, and you're like, I don't want to do any of that stuff. That all sounds terrible. What's the answer? That's what we're going to talk about today. Ashley Harwood is our guest. We're going to bring her in. She's an extrovert in all things introverts in real estate. She runs group coaching, individual coaching. She's speaking. She's doing all kinds of fun things around this topic. So I love it. We're going to bring her in a second. We've got Evil Ninja is here as well. He's very bald today. But first, my esteemed colleague in the co-pilot seat where you so belong, far away from me, Greg McDaniel. What's up today?
What up, brother? Hey, it is literally freezing here in Northern California this morning.
I think I can hear your heater.
I, you can actually. I actually got it fixed, so it's fantastic to have heat in my house. But I have 3 layers on, and it is fantastic. But it's
What
going
is
to be
it,
a great show.
65 over there?
It's 72. So yeah.
Freezing in California.
In Massachusetts, that's called indoor room temperature. And you're like, ooh, it's a little, got to put some layers on.
gotta get the hand warmers and the gloves. Okay.
That's right.
No, but no, it's literally 32 degrees outside. It is literally freezing, but it's gorgeous. It's sunny. I'm blessed. Ashley, she and I were chatting offline, and some of the stuff that I wrote down in notes here, and Matt, you should do this from now on. You take notes before the show. It helps the whole flow go better.
Let me write that down.
Yeah, write that down.
That I need to take notes.
On that one.
Okay.
But no, with some of the stuff that we're going to talk about today, all right, is some
Thank
really
you,
good
Gene.
content.
You got it.
Yeah, for
Yes.
the listeners, I'd like to say Matt is neither taking notes or holding paper or pen.
No.
It's because it's a steel trap up here. All right, we also have to point out that we have an East Coast West Coast SmackDown, which I always enjoy. West Coast, and then Ashley, our guest, is in Massachusetts. Gene is in Philly, not too far from each other. So we're gonna have a little fun, a little East Coast, West Coast. So Gene has already made his presence known. He's piped in. Let's bring in Ashley. How are you?
Hey, well.
Ashley, be careful. This is a shark den.
Oh, I can tell.
But we're
Oh,
so
I know.
happy to have you.
I'm
Let's,
happy to be here, although it's colder here than all you guys. So.
I'm
Oh,
sure
God,
it
yeah.
is.
I have my team manager is in Colorado right now, and I was bitching about it was only 32 degrees here, and she's like, "Stop being a bitch." It was 1 degree. It was 5 degrees yesterday and 1 degree today, and I'm like, I am being a bitch. Okay.
Yeah, that's when you step outside and it doesn't feel cold. It just hurts. Like
Yeah.
it skedaddles past the feeling of cold, and you just feel like every sense is being assaulted. That is the difference. I assume when I go back in a couple of months or whatever, at the end of the month, I'm going back home to some things with like real estate license stuff and visit my family. I assume it'll be 1 degree and 10 inches of snow. That's
So,
what I'm looking forward to.
Ashley, I want to ask you a question. My family and I lived in Wisconsin, and then we're going to move on to the content here. For a number of years, my dad was getting his master's in Madison, and I was born in Boulder, Colorado, but we went to Madison, Wisconsin, and my mom goes outside. This is like in the 80s, and she put her bare hand on a metal handle on a car door,
Oh.
and got herself frozen to the car door.
Wow.
And you don't think about that, but car doors don't have metal. Like that's not possible anymore. You can't. You literally can't do that. That's interesting.
She was
That in a million years.
Dude, she was screaming like a banshee, and my dad ran out there with a pot of boiling water or hot water and
Oh.
poured it on and like so get her hand loose. And I'm like, what level of hell did we just step into? Like this is just
It
too
is.
cold.
Winter's a special level of hell. All right, let's get into the content, Ashley.
Yes.
For everybody that doesn't know you, because you're a first-time guest here, give people just kind of a 60-second bio. You know, who you are, where you are, what you do, and then we'll get into some fun things that you're excited to talk about.
Sure. So my background is obviously in real estate. I got my license in 2013, so I've been around for a little while. Worked as a solo full-time agent for about 6 years, and then started my own company, my coaching company, Move Over Extroverts. Started that in 2018. I was actually born and raised in Michigan, outside Detroit. So
Nice.
Wisconsin is not too far. Lots of cheese curds and deliciousness. And then,
And intrastate sports rivalries.
yes, and not as bad as Michigan, Ohio, though. We
That is
can't
true.
stand Ohio. I'm
No,
sorry.
that is true. And their fans are insufferable, so that they have a point. I mean, to be fair, Michiganders have a point on that.
Yeah. So I was born and raised there, lived in Massachusetts for a long time, and then I actually was in LA for the past 2 years and just moved back to Mass. So I understand all the different weather dynamics. And now I'm working with agents in a couple different capacities, teaching, coaching, training, all the things. And I just love it because I have this unique niche of working with the introverts in the business. And it's been so fun and rewarding.
Yeah, and we were talking about just some of the things that you've been, I guess, and sharing that have come up with clients recently. Energy. So this is something you've been paying more attention to lately. What drew your attention to it? What got you thinking about the subject of energy? And what's your thoughts on it right now?
So I've been thinking about it for a while in terms of an individual's own energy and how that ebbs and flows, because that's really at the crux of where people fall on this introvert extrovert spectrum. It all comes down to how your energy ebbs and flows within yourself. And lately I've been thinking and having conversations around me with not just yourself and your own energy, but how that affects other people and how other people's energy can affect you. And where I see this play out a lot is with managers and broker owners and team leaders and their interactions with some of their agents who are more introverted. And sometimes it can be when there's a really big difference in energy level, someone's really amped up and really excited, and the other person's a lot more reserved. It can be difficult to navigate that for both parties.
Mm-hmm.
Good
Yeah,
point.
like yeah, I was gonna say, because Greg, it's hard for you to relate that a true introvert feels, because they just don't feel the same way on the inside as you. Like, so for you to like, I noticed that you probably run into difficulty coaching people on, for example, because the people that are natural introverts that would be super uncomfortable if somebody came to their door, they have the hardest time going up and knocking on somebody's door and thinking, oh, this is perfectly natural, just, no big deal. So I think there's differences in that, where just if you're an extrovert, you don't really understand how it feels on the inside to be an introvert. And the advice that you're going to give when somebody doesn't take the advice that you give, it's wildly confusing to an extrovert. Like, why wouldn't you just do this? Why wouldn't you just pick up the phone? Why wouldn't you just go live on Facebook? Like, whatever it is, Greg, there's lots of things you've told people to do. And then you're go, but I don't want to do that. and they're like, seems like that just doesn't suit my personality at all. So
No,
Ashley, what have you
100%.
noticed? Yeah, go
100%
ahead.
true on that one. I mean,
Yeah.
without a doubt, and it is wildly confusing to me. I'm like,
Yes.
well, just go
You
say
cannot
hi.
relate.
I can't. I really can't. And the funny thing is that, like we were talking about off air, my girlfriend's a super introvert. Like, she hates human beings, like hates them. And she has like 5 good friends, and those people she'll be friends with. And if there's anybody else, she's pretty much like F off. Like, don't want to talk to you. Don't come near me. If you breathe in my direction, I will slaughter you. So I totally get it. And actually, I want to get your opinion. I know Matt has a lot of questions too, but I mean, just as a guy who's dating a girl who's an introvert, when you're dealing with clients or an interpersonal relationship, and I'm an extrovert, she's an introvert, what's the best way to communicate with introverts in an effective way that can speak to what their needs are versus speaking to what my needs are as an extrovert?
I think it's 2 things. It's asking questions, asking her regularly how she feels, what she needs. Does she need some alone time?
Oh my God,
And
we just got in a fight about this, and that's exactly what she told me to do.
yeah,
That's literally
and then
what she told me.
listening. That's the other part. Listening.
That's not
And-
Greg's strong suit. You lost there on the second point.
I'm sorry. What did you say, Matt? I'm sorry. I wasn't paying attention.
Exactly.
But there's an important piece of the listening that can be hard for extroverts because you guys don't think about it. It's not your fault. It just doesn't come naturally. It's pausing and letting it be silent while the introvert thinks about how they want to respond.
I've experienced that.
Easy for Greg.
No, it's not. And I've actually learned this because I went through, we had a guest on the show a couple of years ago, and he wrote a book about kind of being an introvert. And he said, Greg, you're going to learn how to be quiet, much more quiet than you are now. And I'm like, the fuck are you talking about, being quiet? And I've learned with Jackie, my girlfriend, that, we have our silent times. Like, this is just our silent time. And I've become comfortable with that. Is it hard for the extroverts that you coach to understand how to be quiet and listen and be present with an introvert?
It takes practice. It takes awareness, first of all, because they don't realize that this is even a thing. They're just like, go, 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 Energizer Bunny all the time. And so the first step is, hey, this is a thing to be aware of. And then it's practice. So I wouldn't say it's hard for them. I mean, it's a pretty simple concept, but it does take time and practice and encouragement. And hopefully the person on the other side is patient with them while they get the hang of it.
Hey, Matt, can you put a spreadsheet together for me on the things I need to do in our relationship so that I can be more relevant in your life as you're an introvert and I'm an extrovert?
That's
that
going to be a short list. It's going to be a short list.
No, we're not. I would, because I know the spreadsheet won't get open. So why would I make it?
So wait, I have a question.
Greg better than that.
I have a question. I'm asking this one for a friend. Can you be selectively introverted? Again, asking for a friend. Selectively introverted. So I know this guy, he's one of the three on this podcast, that hates doing certain things, right? So like, I'm absolutely naturally an extrovert. But like when it comes to making phone calls, or if I had to door knock, I wouldn't do any of that stuff. And when I say I wouldn't do it, it makes me uncomfortable. Like, I hate cold calls. I will not do a cold call. I just don't do it. I never have. I would fail as a real estate agent from that perspective. Are there avenues that are extroverted versus introverted? Or is that just a basic generality that we go after?
I'm always hesitant to tie specific activities and label them either an introvert thing or an extrovert thing, because it is a lot more nuanced and complicated, and there are a whole slew of possibilities. I have met introverts who love door knocking. I can't relate to that. I hate it. I'm never going to do it. I mean, I have, but I'm not doing it now. And then there are a lot of them who aren't going to do it. So I'm cautious about labeling activities because it is so personal and it depends on the individual. And that's why a lot of lead gen, a lot of the coaching I do around lead gen is trial and error. Try a bunch of different things and see how it feels and see what your results are. And then decide, am I going to continue this or am I going to try something else?
That makes sense.
Yeah,
Are you
I would
seeing a
agree with
lot
that.
of introverts, they would prefer to stay maybe behind a microphone or behind a postcard or behind a VA that's going to be doing kind of the outbound stuff, and then once the relationship or opportunity has been opened up, then the introverts will step in and they can really shine, because introverts are amazing human beings, Matt excluded. But I mean, and of course I joke. But I mean, where do you see they find their feet underneath them? Like, what's kind of, I know it's all independent on every single case. I get that. But what are some things, maybe someone's listening to this going like, man, I would really like just a tip on kind of just where to start. Like, how do I begin? How do I reinvent myself or invent myself?
Mm-hmm. In general, this goes against what I just said, by the way. But in general,
Naturally, right?
introverts tend to be more relationship focused. So they don't all want to hide in their houses all the time. However, they don't want to feel like they're selling themselves or bothering people. So it's more about building relationships in their community, with their sphere, with their referrals, and building a business sort of one person at a time based on bringing value and staying in touch with people versus I'm going to blast my business card out to 1,000 people and see who calls me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense. Absolutely makes
Yeah.
total sense. Gene, SOI, how would you, if you put yourself as an introvert? Okay, so Ashley is going to be one of your clients. She's an introvert, and she wants to build her business. How are you going to do it without her having to communicate with another living species?
Well, that's a layup. Social media, right? One to many. I mean, that's just easy for me. I would have Ashley go through her daily iterations and put it out on video. I mean, that's a shame because it's so simple. I would like to talk for the next 25 minutes about it, but just nice and easy. Pick your lane and go hard on it. That's what I would do.
Yeah.
Ashley,
I
would
tend
you
to agree
do
with that.
video?
Yeah, for some people, yes. For other people, being on video and being on social media is their worst nightmare. For them, I would not recommend that tactic.
See, Gene got smacked
It
down.
does. Well, it does depend. That's the interesting thing about introverts is, and I think Ashley, that's a good thing that you don't throw certain it, because I know for every person you can name that goes, hey, I don't do this because I'm introverted, you can find another introvert that does it because it feels more comfortable to them than something else that feels super extroverted. So I'll give you an example. When I first started talking about introverts more on the Micro Famous podcast for like coaches and consultants, one of my good friends, someone who's been on this show multiple times, who's a coach in real estate, raised his hands and like, introvert. I'm like, what? I'm like, you're on social media literally every day, broadcasting, interacting with people. You engage people in the comments section. You're moving them over into the chat. You're getting them onto the phone. You're recruiting, like you're doing all this stuff. It's like, yeah, from my office, but where I don't have another neighbor for like 5 miles. And like, so everybody has their own definition of like what feels good. And it's like social media allows me to be extroverted in like one place, in one arena, and then introverted in a whole arenas of my life. I'm like, okay, that makes you can. So I think for being an introvert, you got to kind of find. I think Greg, maybe you mentioned like you called it an avenue. Maybe it was Gene that said that, but like an avenue for like where do you want to be extroverted? Because if you're going to be, you have to be extroverted somewhere, but you can kind of find a place where you're comfortable and it feels natural to be extroverted. Like podcasting, I've had people ask me, oh, like so unusual for you to get into podcasting and live video if you're an introvert. I'm like, I'm sitting by myself in my living room, but like, this is great. Like, I don't have to leave my house. I don't have to get in the car. I don't have to see you face to face. This is and I get to go like skip all this talk and get straight into like deep conversations with interesting people. So from my perspective, the way that I look at podcasting, it worked out perfectly. Somebody else could look at the same thing and go, I could never do that because I can't be on camera because I'm an introvert. So I think, yeah, I like the fact that you talk about you can't throw those things into a bucket. But how about that idea of just finding the place where you can be good and then going all in on that one thing?
Absolutely. That's the gold right there.
Yeah.
That's the key. That's the one thing that every agent can be, and if they haven't already, should be focused on finding that one thing, or maybe it's two things or three, probably not more than three, because you want to be able to really focus and spend your time and energy in one or two places so you're not spread too thin. I will tell you guys.
Any story clients come to mind when you think about like helping them find that one thing that really just clicked into place for them?
I mean, I can share my own story as well.
Do it.
For me, my one thing was networking in person. This was, pre-COVID, where that was a lot easier. But Chamber and I going to large networking events for the purpose of finding a few individuals to follow up with and have one-on-one meetings.
Good.
Beautifully for me. I shouldn't say I hated. It was very draining for me to be in the big room with 200 people, but I used it as a means to an end to find other people to start building relationships with, and that became my sphere.
Let me ask you a question about that, because that fascinates me to no end. Pre-show, you and I were talking about multiple different topics we're going to go over. One of them was managing your energy. Um, Walk me through, because Matt and I are polar opposites on this. When I get in a room of like 200, 2,000, 300,000 people, my energy level spikes. I'm like, yeah, let's do this. That was not supposed to be a middle finger, by the way. That was supposed to be two. Yeah, that
I
was
was
supposed to be
wondering
two.
why you were giving me the finger all of a sudden. Like, what did
Yeah,
I do?
that was my fault. But like yeah, fun times. But I mean, I thrive off of being around other people. Help me understand how to manage your energy as an introvert so that you don't overextend yourself. Because when you're at the networking events, and like you said, if there's 200 people there, it stresses you out. So, what would be a couple of key takeaways that you would give our fellow introverts, ideas to deal with and build their businesses around extroverts like myself, and protect their energy, protect their time, protect their space, but yet still build their business and become productive?
Sure. So I have a lot of tips around this. I'll try
Go.
to keep it to just a handful of them. One of them is just to realize that these things are going to drain your energy. And when you're creating your calendar and planning these things, if it's at the end of the night, if it's an evening event, that's always easier because you usually don't have to go do anything afterwards. You can just go home and go to bed and crash and recharge that way. If it's 200 people for a breakfast meeting, don't schedule yourself a listing appointment right afterwards because your energy is going to be drained.
Mhm.
Seriously, like it's strategy in scheduling these things. And then one of the things that I used to do, I still do this, is in the middle of the event, sometimes more than once, I go hide in the bathroom. I will legit hide in the bathroom just to like take some deep breaths and be alone. You guys think I'm kidding. I'm not kidding. It's a good trick.
Oh, I'm laughing. Kidding.
And that's why I'm laughing too. I'm like, oh dang, she's really serious. Okay, rock and roll.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good trick. Sometimes you just need to get away because it is, and it does feel like an adrenaline rush. And I think for some introverts who maybe don't realize they're introverts, and there are a lot of people in that category, the adrenaline rush can be confused with raising your energy level. But then what happens is you're going to crash
Yeah.
afterwards. So just kind of be aware of that flow and be able to determine, is this something that's actually raising my energy level, like Greg, or is this just adrenaline and I'm going to crash after? That's an important thing to be aware of.
So if
That is
you
true.
if you were required to be in a situation for a long period of time as an introvert, doesn't matter what it is, a long listing presentation, a long business office meeting, fill in the blank, whatever it is there a technique that an introvert can use in the moment to regenerate that energy that you guys crave, so that you can keep moving forward in a positive manner?
There's not really a way to replenish energy in that moment, in that situation.
Copy.
There's not really a way to do that. It can be managed a little bit. You can try to draw it out a little bit longer by paying attention to your breath and taking deeper, more conscious breaths.
Hmm.
But really the best thing to do is to be able to get out of there and go be
Good,
alone for
good.
a couple minutes if you can.
Yeah, I was gonna say when you were asking that question, Greg, I was thinking about me when I used to go to events
Oh, so was
much
I.
more often, and the thing that made for me in the moment of those was finding one person with whom I could have a deeper conversation. So
Yeah.
Ashley, you
Good
talked
point.
about that room of 200 people. So rather than like just going in with the approach that, hey, I'm only looking for a couple, a handful, other people might be looking to get their business card, every person there, and that's cool. That's not me. So I think that like that helped, that mentality of, hey, I only need a couple of people that I'm personally. And then like
Mm.
for those couple of people, I want to build like an amazing connection. I want to have a really awesome, deep conversation. And if I can do that, that will raise and sustain my energy levels for longer than it would if I was having a shallow conversations, because that's where introverts are really the most uncomfortable. Like Greg, I've talked to you about this, like you and the mental calculus that's going on in when we're in a free-flowing social environment where, like, you're thinking, who do I want to talk to? Like, total comfort level. Introverts is like high-level calculus and trigonometry of, oh, do I go to this group? What about this? Like, oh, should I go over here? Like, oh, should I like I'm in this group? I'm kind of in the conversation. Should I pipe up? Should I hang back? Should I bring this person into the conversation? All of that stuff is going on. And the fewer of those conversations we can have, it's exhausting. Oh my God, it's exhausting. So going from those types of shallow, short conversations, one right after another, whoop, like that drains my energy really fast. If I can spend a half hour with somebody off at a table somewhere having a deep conversation, mill around for a little bit, and then get into another deeper conversation with somebody, and I know that I'm going to follow up, my energy might last for 3 hours. Where if I have to just like mill around and make small talk, I'll be toast in 20 minutes.
There's a business play. There's a strategy, maybe a new introverting networking experience we could put together. But that to me sounds a lot like anxiety.
Well, it is. I would say, Ashley, you might agree. It's a form of low-level anxiety because your introversion is like the reason you spike the adrenaline is because your body's in some version of fight or flight mode. Like your body is going, hey, this is uncomfortable for me, so I'm going to raise my internal resources to deal with the risk of social outcast. I don't know what you call it, Ashley. So like, it's basically experiencing the risk of social death because you're going to do or say something dumb because you're in an environment where you're just not comfortable and you're not being yourself as much as you wish you were. So yeah, it's like your body's raising that resources to try to deal with all that anxiety.
Yeah, I would agree with that. You bring up a really great point. Thank you for bringing up the difference between deep conversations and small talk, because those are energetically night and day, totally different.
Yeah.
God, so the funny thing is with introverts and extroverts, like a deep conversation, that's like a bonus for me. The small conversation as an extrovert, that's like my feeding ground. That's where I can go hunt and get to know somebody and see their ins and outs, their likes, their dislikes, and stuff like that, and then take it to another level. And it's like a lion on the on the desert land, just going for that gazelle. I'm just like, I want to meet somebody, I want to talk to somebody, I want to find something, and shut up, Gene.
And you guys wonder why we're anxious at a room full of that? Come on.
Like Greg running around like, rah, 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 who am I going to get next?
I know. Greg is a shark. He's got to always be moving and always potentially always drinking. I'm not sure.
Oh, God, yeah. Are you kidding me? I have to do that to do other conversations. But actually, you bring up a really good point right there. I know we breezed right past that, but that's a very good point. Like, you're like, yeah, that's terrifying. And for me, it's exciting. I'm like, fuck, I never even thought about that fact that it would be terrifying for another human being. For me, like, hey, what's up, Ashley? My name's Greg. How are you? Where are you from? What you doing? How long you been doing it? Have you want to move back? No. Have you lived in LA long? Oh, you moved back to Boston? Oh my God, that's amazing. I don't know. I've never been to Boston. Tell me best part about Boston. You're just going like.
You're going like this, and we're going like this. Like yes. That's what's happening. And not in a bad way. That's just what happens.
Yeah. Yep. He's like chasing someone energetically, like backing them into a corner.
Yeah.
That explains a lot about Matt's first dates. I wonder how that happened.
So let me ask the two introverts a question then.
Okay.
So I could see how guys like Greg and I could be overwhelming. Like, I'm totally overwhelming, especially when I am drinking. I get it. Even my wife is like, dude, just slow down. Like, when I get out to a party, I'm that center of attention, sometimes for good reasons, sometimes because I have no pants on and I'm laying in a ditch. That's another story for another day. But
like you're the reason they have the no boogie boarding down the sidewalk sign?
That's exactly
Oh my
right.
God, I forgot about that.
But from your guys' perspective, like, what would you say to a guy like me? Like, how could somebody like me engage in that the type of conversation that you're looking for, where it's valuable for you and I'm not overwhelming you, but by not me coming up to you going, hey, just checking first, you guys introverts or extroverts, so I know which way I'm going. What would you say to a guy like me? Like, is it just listen first? Like, what are there any tips that you would tell Greg and I to say, like, here's how we could engage in a meaningful conversation where it's comfortable for both of us? Here's what I need you to do on your end.
I think it is listening. It's just paying attention. Really, it's when you approach a person, you're probably going to be able to get a sense of their energy level. Maybe not right away, but as soon as you start engaging with them. And you guys might need to consciously bring it down a little bit to get closer to where they are just for that conversation. And maybe ask some deeper questions instead of, what do you do for work? Or how about the weather or whatever? Ask, what's your goal for the year? What are you struggling with right now? Just something that's different and a little bit deeper.
Mm-hmm.
Matt, would you agree?
Yeah, it is a good question because yeah, you're right. It's so much about observing, and I think where extroverts get off with is just when they've already decided they don't care. He wanted, like Gene, if you're actually conscious enough to ask that question, you're probably conscious enough to know, when you're being overwhelming to somebody, you can feel their energy pulling away from you, and you're having to like chase, like you're moving forward and they're moving back, like that energetically, you can kind of feel that. So I feel like if you're aware of it and you care, like if you're in an environment where you care and you want to make a good impression and create a good experience, you probably start to adjust things naturally. I think, Ashley, probably with real estate people, one of the tough parts you get is when the extrovert is the leader and the rainmaker, and they're like, I'm the most important part of this team anyway. Like I make the whole engine go, so therefore everybody's got to listen to me. And that's, in a business sense, that's, except that if you want to actually lead people and be a good leader, you have to like bring them into the conversation. You have to have good energy exchanges with them. Otherwise, it doesn't matter that you are the rainmaker. What'll happen is you'll have terrible turnover, and it will still end up being a pain in your own ass. Like you literally create your own problem. And so I see with real estate people, there's an element of extroversion. Sorry, my camera just went off. There's an element of extroversion mixed with ego, and that can be really detrimental because then the ego steps in and says, yeah, but I am the rainmaker, I'm the leader, everyone adjusts to me. It's like they're trying to, but that only goes so far. And if you want to be a good leader, good leadership isn't about making everybody adjust to you. Good leadership is actually you adjusting to them most of the time. You make the change in yourself. So yeah, that's my word for extroverted people in real estate.
It's funny. Two funny stories here. One, my first date with Jackie, and the reason I keep bringing her up is because she's my closest introvert, right? Our first date, well, we call it our first date. We had a great time. We hung out for like 6 hours, went and looked at houses together, had breakfast, the whole thing. Then I decided to go in for the first kiss on the first date. That worked out horribly. Absolutely horribly. I'm like, well, I screwed that one up. And so after the last 3 or 4 years that we've been together, I've learned to listen to her more and slow down. Don't go a million miles an hour and just listen. We had a discussion the other night about a certain subject, and she's like, I need you to listen more. I need you to understand. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, I'm here. And then I started doing it. I started asking questions, and I think Ashley brought up a good point. When I started asking questions like, help me understand this. What does this mean for you? Walk me through this. And that's in a personal relationship, but in business, you can do the same thing by just, like you said, being present, slowing down, and just being there and not trying to be everywhere and be everybody's everything. Is that an accurate depiction of kind of how you'd want to grow into a relationship with an introvert and how to react and interact with them?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what you're describing is something we can all get better at in both in our personal relationships and in our business relationships, and that's getting to know ourselves and getting to know others for who they really are versus trying to fit them into who we think they should be.
Ooh.
And I don't think people do this consciously. I think it's done a lot subconsciously, specifically in real estate teams. Like, I think you should be this. I'm hiring you because I want you to be this, versus really, really getting, like, keying in on who this person is, how they work, how their energy works, what their needs are in terms of quiet time and alone time, and then accepting and honoring that and encouraging it.
Yes. Excellent points on that. And that's something I've learned. We have a dog. His name is Rupert. His full name is Sir Rupert Pepperton. But Rupert, that's really his name. But we give him, we have a couch in the house, and it's called his me time couch. And so when he needs his me time, he goes to the couch, and we respect it. And as an extrovert, I just want to pounce on him and just rub his floppy ears. But I mean, when it comes to clients and everything else, a lot of us want to pounce on our clients, not in a weird sexual way, ladies and gentlemen, on a professional manner, and try to, you know, get some business and generate leads and referrals. But the other person's like, dude, just please back up a second. I just need to process this entire whole transaction and understand what's going on in my life. And for me, it's something I've learned consistently, and I am still learning it. Believe me, I'm not perfect. Even though Matt thinks I am, but it's okay. Shut up, Matt.
Well, it reminds me of the old. I don't want to cast aspersions, but it seems to come from like the Mike Ferry world of just for an example, like you don't leave the listing without a decision.
Yes.
It's like if you tell me that as an introvert, fuck off. Like if you tell me you're not like if we walk out of here and we don't decide to work together like that, you know, I'm not coming back, like that is your decision. I'll tell you, great, there's the door. Don't let it hit you on the way out. Like I just don't like that's not how my decision making works, and it makes you wonder if there's an element of extrovert versus introvert. You know, introverts want to think to speak. We want to think before we make decisions. We want to think before we speak. And if you're not relating to that, then you end up with things like that. Like, oh, like if we like each other, you should make a decision before I leave. And like, no, I want you to leave, and I want to see how I feel when you leave, and then tomorrow I will decide if I actually still want to work with you or not, and then I'll let you know and I'll sign the contract. There's plenty of people like that. So from an agent's perspective, you got to understand going into a home, you know, even for something as simple as a listing appointment, you got to understand as much as you can who the other person sitting on that other side is. Are they an extrovert, an introvert, and things like that? Because an introverted person is probably going to want to think before they say, yeah, absolutely, this feels great. Let's jump in. Let's get it listed. Let's get on the market tomorrow. Like an extrovert might be that way. A high D might be that way. But what if they're a high C? What if they're an introverted high C? For the love of God, those people you can't read at all. Those are the worst. Oh my God. An introverted high C? Yeah, they'll make a decision next week, and they'll need 5. Is that really? Yeah, they'll need 5. They'll need 5 analytics, 3 proof tables, a bar chart, a pie chart, a bar chart of their favorite pies, and a pie chart of their favorite charts. Anyway, they'll need lots of things before they make a decision.
Oh my God, that sounds horrible.
I know. Greg is like, oh, just give me the decision before I leave the house. Like, sorry, like that's not gonna work for everybody. I think there's I think that just in the real estate community, not beware. That's too strong a word. Be aware. Just be conscious of who's giving the advice, because great advice coming from someone like Greg to someone like Greg will work magically. And then if Greg tries to give a massive introvert a piece of advice, it's not going to resonate, and Greg's going to be wildly confused as to why, and the introvert's going to think they're the problem when none of that's true. So just be aware of who you take your advice from, and if you can, like, seek out people like Ashley that are the same personality type and on the introverted side, and see what they're doing to be successful, because odds are what Ashley's doing is probably going to resonate more with you if you're a similar personality type. Right. That's all I got.
Absolutely. I'm glad that we're talking. I know we have to wrap it up soon, but I'm glad we're talking about interacting with clients in the listing appointment and in the buyer consult. That's what separates good agents from great agents, really, is treating the client how they want to be treated and interacting with them. And if they don't want to be pushed to make a decision and sign right now, don't push them.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they don't want to be pushed and you push them, guess what? Even if they do sign, they're not referring you to anybody.
Nope.
No, because they felt sold and pushed. And
Right.
the funny thing is, after Matt got off his tirade, you literally sat there for a second or 2 seconds, and you're like, I'm processing what he just said. I'm like, oh, that's an introvert working in live time. This is amazing.
You can see it because you're forced to sit and listen. All right,
I am.
Ashley, what's the where do people go to connect, and what do you have for them? What's the main thing that you want people to walk away with?
So 2 places you can find me, my website, moveoverextroverts.com. And then I also run a Facebook group called Introverts in Real Estate. It's not a very creative title, but it is what it is. The main thing I have for people right now is one-on-one work, either coaching or fly out to Boston and we have a VIP day together and we put together your whole lead gen strategy.
Very cool.
That's
That's awesome. I love it.
I actually really like the introverts in real estate or for real estate. What's the
In
Facebook
real
group?
estate.
Introverts in real estate. I think that's a phenomenal title because a lot of folks, they don't want to admit that they might not want to talk to everybody, and it's probably a very safe space where people can go and kind of just learn from folks that have the same mindsets, get tactics and techniques, and really just grow themselves, grow their business, learn from you. Obviously, that's why everyone is going to go there. And I just love your
from now
personality.
on, I assume there'll be a daily meme mocking someone like Greg.
You can use my face. It's okay. It'll scare a lot of people away.
I think Greg is the great poster child of an extrovert in real estate.
There's, 600,000 outbound phone calls, 200,000+ door knocks, all the rest of that stuff. So yeah, actually, everyone who's listening to this, she's shaking her head, going, "That's a hell no, hell no."
Yep. Mm-hmm. All right.
But Gene just looks so good bald. I mean, if he knocked on my front door, I'd just be like,
you just got to
"Dude."
plant him in the neighborhood. People will come flocking out of their doors. I mean, they'll come flocking to Gene. Gene, what's the best way to reach out and connect with you?
Depends. If you're an extrovert, go to genevolpe.com. If you're an introvert, stay home. I mean also genevolpe.com. Sorry about that.
The love and compassion.
That's right. All right. And we know why people should reach out to me. That's for podcast production. If you're in the coaching consulting space, I do have a book, Micro Famous. We talked about that. Greg always has very nice things to say. And then Greg, what is the best way to reach out and connect with you, and why would anyone want to do such a thing?
Because I'm a lovable big bear and people love me to pieces and they want to squeeze me every time they see me because I exude love everywhere I go. Matt, you've experienced this and you walked away as a better person because of our interactions in person. But if you guys want to talk about kind of what we're doing with our EXP, guys, we're doing some incredibly different stuff. We're talking about some very out of the box marketing. Something called OTT marketing, which is off the top marketing, which is insanely interesting when it comes to like your streaming services in your house. We also have geofencing, guys. All this stuff is built for an introvert because you don't have to go see people; they're just going to see you, and just get get in my realm. Come over, talk with me, hang out with me. I promise you, Matt will wash your car with rocks on Saturday mornings. His number is 402-671-1122. Go ahead and give him a ring, or just go ahead and call me, 925-915-1978, or DM me on Instagram or Facebook. You obviously know where to find me. Let's have a conversation. Let's see if we're a fit. Gene is an amazing human being. Matt loves people. Ashley is an amazing human being. Go out there and tag all of us in anything that you like that you heard. Matt, I need you to do something very important for me.
Yes.
Okay. I need a color for the bow on the show, and Gene, you too.
Let's do something classy. Let's do navy blue.
Navy blue.
Mm-hmm.
Is that because you live in San Diego and you're all about the Navy?
No. Maybe it's your hoodie. It's a very classy hoodie.
This is a gray hoodie, by the way.
Is it? It looks blue.
And this is a
here.
Netflix hoodie.
Really? All right.
Yeah.
And then Gene, favorite color?
Go Netflix red. How about that?
All right, blue, navy blue, and red. That's a all right. That's a classy
like it.
color palette. All right,
like that.
navy blue and red bow. We're gonna wrap around the show.
But
put it in
Ashley
the present.
But Ashley has to pick a color for the bow.
Oh
on the show.
God, you got to
She's
try
our
to come up with a
guest. I
third
mean,
color.
yes, we can't leave her out. She's the best looking person on the show. Next,
Okay.
Jean.
Well, that's true. My favorite color is actually blue as well, and navy blue is one of my brand colors that I use for Move Over Extroverts. So
I
I'm
nailed
gonna
it.
double down on navy.
All right,
Man, did you guys collaborate behind scenes on this one? I think you did. All right, guys,
maybe,
there
maybe
it
I
is.
looked at Ashley's website at some point, and it absorbed the navy blueness.
All right, guys, there it is. There's our show. Guys, go out there and please leave us a 5-star, not a 2-star review on every place you guys watch and listen to this podcast, Real Estate Uncensored. Hashtag Ashley, hashtag Jean, hashtag Matt, hashtag myself. If you like anything that we have to say, we love you to pieces. We can't do it without you. So now we have a navy blue ×2, and yes, that did rhyme. I'm a future rapper. And then a Netflix red bow for the show. Guys, we love you. Peace out, ninjas. We're gone.